What's up YouTube, Card Boss here, back in the video. We're talking about cards, money, investing. Today we're talking about investing in complete sets. Now, not exactly buying complete sets outright, but how to put together complete sets for investment. So I'm just going to share you guys the tips and tricks on how to actually do it correctly, in my opinion, right? So let's go. So what I want to talk about is just split into two categories. Okay, so the first is what kind of sets, or how to look for what sort of sets you should invest in, and once you have done that, how to actually go about in investing in cards for those sets. All right, so we're going to talk about the sets itself first. So the first criteria is actually to look about what are the suitable types of sets that's actually good for investing. And when I mean suitable types, will be likely what you think that people will gravitate towards and what will can actually sell, and that's very important. So it's not just about putting together those base sets from 1990 or from, let's say, 92 masterpieces and stuff like that. It's not just any set and then put together and then thinking that, yep, I got one set now and then it's good to go to sell. So not every complete set actually has an appeal to the greater audience, right? There may be some people who want to complete certain sets and would like to buy those sets outright, but majority of the time it's all normally focused on the popular sets. Okay, so you tend to want to stay away from like base sets, maybe except for the 1990 MU, but there's plenty of those around already. So you want to look at sets such as like the inserts, those with serial number sets, or parallels, right? It's just these kind of those popular stuff, right? So some of the sets that you may seem to be popular but not actually worth a lot of money from an investment perspective. Things, example, let's say like the X2020 X-Men Metal, the Palladium series, right, or the Arc Wells. So those are nice, cool sets to put together. It's pretty relatively easy to put together, right? But it doesn't really command any premium as a complete set, right? And that says a lot as well. The ease of completion actually just tends to dictate the value. So if it's easy to complete, likely that there is not much secondary value. Okay. The next point is actually the size of the set itself, right? You kind of like to focus on, when it comes to investing, right, on sets with a smaller checklist, right? So things like a huge set, like a 100 card set or 130 card set, kind of like it's a tough endeavor, right, to pull everything together. Yep, it's quite fulfilling, but at the end of the day, if you're going on this road of investing cards to a set with such an uphill climb to complete, it's kind of not a very good idea to begin in the first place, right? So things like for example, the more recent sets, like say like Marvel Vibranium, right? If you're thinking of putting together the Molten set or the Refined set or 99, there's 90 cards in that checklist, right? So it's quite a big checklist to complete. It's not impossible, and then it's just a lot. So I mean, even though you scale down, you look at sets like say like the PMGs 2013 or 2015 PMGs, that's like 42 cards in the set. So that number itself, 42, is already big, right? So what more 90 cards? So I personally like sets that's maybe between, let's say, like the 20 to 30 cards, 35 cards at most. So that's kind of like the sweet spot number for sets, right? Anything more than that, I just find it's a bit tough, and the chase gets more and more difficult as trying to find the missing pieces of those remaining sets, right? Okay, next up, and it's one of the more crucial ones, is the lineup of the sets itself, right? So it's not just buying like any set. So I just give you an example, let's say like Marvel 2016 Marvel Gems, right? So the set is exclusively females. So even though the set is nice and colorful, there is serial number. The base is out 225. There are parallels. The sapphires out 25. There's the rubies as well. But the lineup for the set is kind of like just okay. Yeah, it's a bunch of ladies, right? So we all love that, but naturally you're missing a lot of the big characters. There's no Wolverines, there's no Spider-Mans, there's no Deadpools and stuff like that. So kind of like not really the direction that you want to head to when you want to go for a set that has that kind of lineups. Okay, and I talked about it briefly when I was discussing about Marvel Vibranium as well, right? So 90 card checklist, but the lineup is kind of top heavy, which means that there is the Miles Morales Spider-Man, there is a Deadpool, there's a Wolverine, but it drops off significantly after that. Yeah, you have the Iron Man and the Hulk, but there is a lot of no-name characters, right? It's easy to pick up those sets, but generally when you talk about the value, right, the value is always focused on the main characters in that particular set, or the main lineups, right? That's why it makes 2013 and 2015 Flair Retro PMGs very valuable because the lineups are extremely strong for all the sets. Like you talk about 2013, I don't think that there is one character that's actually weak, aside from maybe, let's say, like Luke Cage or Iron Fist, right? So those are the weaker characters, but everybody else, that's a strong character in a set. That's for 42 card set, that's a strong lineup, right? Even look at 2013 Jambalayas, right? I guess the weakest character will be Iceman, and it's just not I would say a lousy character as well. It's a decent X-Men character, but Iceman, or the Thing from the Fantastic Four being your worst character lineup in that set, it's just tells you that how strong the lineup of that set is. So lineup of the set is very important, right? So once you iron out all these factors, right, on what kind of sets you should be looking out for when you consider things like the type, the size, the lineups, okay, then you can actually drill down on what set you want to go into. And I have in front of me here is the 2017 Royal Foils. Now, I'm not advocating that you guys should just go in and jump into this set. I'm just using this set example because it actually illustrates quite well what I just mentioned earlier. Okay, so we talk about 2017 Royal Foils. This is the one that's out of 99, right? Just the normal version that's out of 99 right here. Okay, so they have a couple of parallels. There's the one that's out of 25 and the one that's out of 10. So 3 sorts of parallels. These are ones 99. Feel free, of course, you want to chase the tighter parallels. 25 and 10. Of course, things gets harder to complete when things gets more scarce. So I think if you look at some of my earlier videos when I talk about PMGs, my sweet spot is actually the PMG blues because it's on the right number of scarcity, right? Not as many as the reds out of 99, but not as tight as the green that's out of 10. So Royal Foils here is an example, right? Out of 99, still decent rarity, right? Maybe 25 is a bit a tougher stretch. But one thing I liked about this particular Royal Foils 2017 is the pattern itself, the spider patterns at the back make this Royal Foils very unique, right? And you talk about the size of this particular set, Royal Foils 2017 is only 30 cards, right? So it's within the range that I mentioned, right? It's not something absurd like 40, 50 card kind of set. So 30 is kind of like quite a nice sweet spot in terms of set size. And look at lineups. I mean, it's heavy Spider-Man centric, Spider-Man and Friends. But the 4 cards I have in front of me here, it's 4 of the biggest cards that's in the set, right? You have the Miles Morales, the Venom, the Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Wolverine. Of course, there's Deadpool, Captain America, just to name a few. Right? When you compare this, for example, to the bronze PMG in the same series, of course, you have certain characters that's not in there, like Iron Man, Hulk, Spider-Gwen. But the set itself is pretty strong for a 30-card set. There has, I would say 6 to 7 characters. There are strong highlights, in terms of the lineups, right? I would think that this is a fairly decent set to look at. Okay, so moving on to the next section, right, on how to actually invest in these sort of sets. So let's say, for example, you've identified Royal Foils as the one you want to go in. The main, which I always stress, is to always anchor down the key cards in the set first, right? So in this case, if you look, for example, the Royal Foils, I have in front of me is the 4 key cards. There's Deadpool and Captain America as well, but these are the 4 anchors in the set. And it's always important to chase the anchors first, as opposed to going and look out for the fillers, right? So there's a bunch of fillers in this set. There's the Scorpions and many others as well, but these are the anchors in the set. So normally, in order for you to start your endeavor for the set, you want to go and find if you can actually put together the set by looking at the anchors first. And if you're kind of like priced out of the anchors from the very beginning, it's kind of like quite a difficult endeavor to try for you to finish those sets. Take for example for myself, the PMG Blue 2013, which I tried to complete early on. I was up to about like 16, 17 pieces out of 42, but the Spider-Man Blue just basically ran out in terms of the price. So that was a serious anchor towards the whole set. Without the Spider-Man, the set's not going to worth that much, right? So when I first started out, I think the Spider-Man was about like $15,000. It jumped very, very quickly to the more than $100,000 mark, which is, to me, it's just insane. Now, I'm not saying that the Spider-Man is not worth that much money, but it's quite difficult for me to put together that set when one of the anchors really spiked so quickly. So to put together a set, you really want to anchor down the key cards first, okay? So, and another side note to that, anchoring the key cards, you want to obtain the key card in the best available condition as possible, okay? And not saying that you should disregard condition for the other cards. Generally fair conditions okay, but you want the best conditions for your anchors, because it leads to the next point whereby to send them from grading, right? When somebody values the set as a whole, right, they will normally focus on the anchors first, right? So if your anchors are getting the low grades of the set, the PSA 7s or the 6s, right, it doesn't matter if, let's say, the rest of the sets are getting like PSA 9s and 10s, right? If for example, your lizards or your scorpions or your Morlans, right, and if those are PSA 10, it doesn't matter if, let's say, the Spidermans are PSA 6, right? They will look at the anchors first. So you generally want to make sure that your anchors come in the best condition to send for grading, right? So even if your Spider-Man was a PSA 8, it's a decent grade. Your Morlans came back a PSA 6, nobody would kind of like fault you for that, because the normal valuation when they assess the value of a completed set is generally focused on the anchors, right? And a little tip when it comes to grading complete sets, so definitely when you send to PSA, you definitely want to arrange your set in sequential number. I mentioned this in my TI video, right? And you send them for grading all together. Don't send for grading in pieces, and you get some different serial numbers. So there is some appeal, or there is some appreciation for the aesthetic of having all the serial numbers. Of course, ideally, if you get all identical grades, whether all in PSA 9s or PSA 10s, that's true champ, right? But normally we are not within control of that. So the least that we can do is to arrange our cards in sequential order and send them for grading, so at least the serial numbers are all in that sequence, okay? And then we'll just see how does a grade comes. And definitely when marketing such a set, for investments, you of course, like I said, always focus on the anchors, right? So much importance on this. All right, so that's basically my little tips and tricks of how to invest and to complete certain sets, right? So there are plenty of sets out there that's worth actually looking at. Royal Foils, for example. I'm looking at Jambalayas, and for sure there are many others, and some of you are perhaps already in the middle of those endeavors, right? There's no right or wrong in those sets, right? If you follow these tricks, these tips that I gave to you, it need not necessarily be serial number, right? So as long that set has some sort of appeal, especially if the lineups for those sets are strong, right? So that's the main thing that you guys should consider. All right, hope this video was actually useful to you guys, right? Do like and subscribe for more Marvel content, and I'll chat up with you guys soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Carboz out.